Welcome to the Deep Dive podcast channel. Today we're navigating a terrain many of you know intimately, perhaps too intimately. The quiet but persistent weight of chronic stress and burnout.
Mm,
It's that feeling where being deeply tired just becomes your baseline, right?
mm.
And you might not even remember what feeling truly rested is like.
That's right. It becomes the norm.
We want to explore the roots of this exhaustion today and really understand what it signifies for your overall well-being.
It's such an important topic.
Absolutely. And if this exploration of these, often unseen aspects of our lives resonates with you, we'd be honored if you'd subscribe to stay connected.
Yeah, we really aim to foster a space where it feels safe to explore these often unspoken challenges together.
Exactly. And your thoughts and experiences in the comments are always welcome. We love hearing from you.
Definitely.
Okay, so let's take a deep breath and begin to unpack the origins and widespread impact of chronic stress and burnout. Where do we start?
Well, I think it's crucial to start by understanding that chronic stress is far more than just a temporary rough patch or a bad day.
Right. It's ongoing.
It represents a sustained period of pressure where the usual avenues for recovery are consistently blocked or just not enough.
Okay.
And this often develops quite insidiously. Increasing demands gradually become normalized, almost without you consciously recognizing it.
The boiling fog analogy, perhaps.
Sort of, yes. Until the body's inherent capacity to restore itself, to bounce back, is significantly diminished.
That's a key point. And I think there's a common assumption, isn't there, that burnout is reserved for those in, high-powered, demanding careers working crazy hours.
Yes, that's a huge misconception.
But what's so interesting is how much broader its reach truly is. We see it affecting parents, juggling endless responsibility.
Absolutely. Parents, students navigating relentless academic and social pressures. Caregivers, yes, consistently prioritizing the needs of others. And even creative professionals who are constantly expending emotional energy on their craft.
So it's less about the sheer volume of tasks.
Exactly. It's more about the fundamental lack of the replenishment that should follow exertion. It's not just doing too much.
It's doing too much without recovery.
Precisely. It's the chronic imbalance of doing too much without sufficient emotional, mental, and physical restoration.
And when we're in this prolonged state of stress, our bodies react, right? There are physiological things happening.
Yes, definitely. Our bodies initiate specific physiological responses. We experience a sustained release of cortisol.
Cortisol, the stress hormone.
The very same. Now, while cortisol is adaptive, it's helpful in acute, short-term situations.
Like running from a threat.
Exactly. Its prolonged elevation day after day can become quite detrimental.
Okay, let's delve a bit deeper into this cortisol response then. We know it gives focus and energy short term, but what happens when that system is just constantly on?
Well, over extended periods, the body can actually develop a reduced sensitivity to cortisol. It's almost like it stops listening properly.
It's like insulin resistance, but for stress.
That's a useful analogy, yes. Furthermore, the HPA axis, that's the hypothalamic pituitary adrenal axis, which governs our stress response,
Right.
it can become dysregulated. This impacts cortisol production itself. Now, while the term adrenal fatigue isn't, let's say, universally accepted in medical literature, the underlying reality is that this whole system can become overworked, dysregulated.
Okay.
And this chronic stress also triggers a cascade of inflammatory responses throughout the body.
Inflammation. I feel like we hear about that a lot these days.
We do, and for good reason.
Yeah.
It can significantly impact digestive processes, leading to issues there, and cognitive functions too.
Is that where the brain fog comes in, that feeling of wading through mental treacle?
That's very often linked, yes. That persistent brain fog so many describe. Our physiology just isn't designed for this prolonged state of high alert.
And it's not just the physical impact, is it? You mentioned emotional effects, too. Emotional exhaustion seems like a really significant indicator.
Absolutely critical. I think many of us can relate to that feeling of being emotionally depleted, where even small demands feel overwhelmingly difficult.
Yeah, like you just have nothing left in the tank emotionally.
Precisely. Emotional exhaustion often manifests as a profound sense of being emotionally drained or empty. Activities or interactions that would typically evoke a response simply don't. We might observe a noticeable decline in empathy, for instance. Not because someone stops caring fundamentally.
Right, not because they're a bad person.
No, but because the emotional reserves are just depleted. It's a critical early signal of burnout that is, unfortunately, quite easy to overlook or dismiss as just being tired or stressed.
And what's particularly fascinating and maybe more dangerously subtle, is this phenomenon you hear about, high-functioning burnout,
Yes.
where people appear to be performing well, meeting their obligations, maybe even excelling.
Hitting targets, getting promotions.
Yeah. Exactly.
Uh,
While internally, they are just struggling immensely.
High-functioning burnout can be quite deceptive.
Mhm.
Because these individuals continue to perform outwardly, their internal struggles often remain unseen by others.
And sometimes even by themselves.
Sometimes even by themselves, yes.
Mhm.
They might rationalize it. They might even receive praise for their resilience and output.
Wow, you handle so much.
Right, which ironically reinforces the pattern and further masks the significant toll it's taking on their well-being. It's a particularly risky form of burnout because it can progress to a more severe stage before being recognized.
It almost feels like our sort of cultural narrative inadvertently supports this, doesn't it? This underlying message that constant busyness equals value.
That's a very astute observation. We often operate under this misconception that constant activity signifies productivity and success. Like
Yeah.
being busy is a badge of honor.
Yeah.
However, burnout starkly reveals the fallacy of this belief.
Yeah.
Being continuously busy doesn't necessarily translate to genuine fulfillment or well-being.
Life just becomes a checklist.
It can, yes. Life can become reduced to an endless checklist of tasks, and the inherent joy and meaning, the spontaneity, can get lost in the process.
And the psychological consequences extend beyond just feeling tired and overwhelmed, right? You often see links to more pronounced mental health challenges.
Indeed, chronic stress exerts a significant influence on our mental landscape. Anxiety, for example, or persistent worry, the tendency to anticipate negative outcomes is very prevalent.
Constantly waiting for the other shoe to drop.
Exactly. And depression, too, with its hallmark symptoms of apathy, lack of interest, and a pervasive sense of gloom, like the world's turned gray, that can also develop. And some individuals experience what we call emotional numbing, a diminished capacity to feel a full spectrum of emotions, both the good and the bad.
Just kind of flat.
Flat, yes. And these are not merely transient feelings. They're often rooted in a deep dysregulation of the nervous system.
It's striking how intimately connected our mental and physical states truly are, because this chronic stress doesn't just stay in our heads, does it? It shows up physically.
That's absolutely correct. The physiological repercussions of chronic stress are extensive. We touched on inflammation, but digestive disturbances like irritable bowel syndrome or even ulcers are frequently reported.
Wow.
We also observe a higher incidence of autoimmune flare-ups in people under chronic stress.
Really?
Yes, the immune system is deeply affected. Hormonal imbalances are common too, impacting everything from sleep to mood to metabolism. And over time, the immune system's effectiveness can be compromised, increasing susceptibility to infections and illness.
It's like the body is just worn down.
In essence, yes. The systems are depleted.
Earlier, you touched upon some of the underlying factors, and perfectionism and people-pleasing really resonated. It makes intuitive sense, doesn't it? Constantly striving for some unattainable ideal or always putting others first.
Oh, definitely. These personality traits, or perhaps learned behaviors, often cultivate a fertile environment for burnout to flourish.
How so?
Well, think about it. The deeply ingrained belief that your self-worth is contingent upon flawless achievement.
The pressure must be immense.
It is. Or the fear of disappointing others, which leads to an inability to establish healthy boundaries, to say no.
Right. You end up overcommitted.
Exactly. And this persistent need to cater to everyone else's needs while neglecting your own, well, it all contributes significantly.
Yeah.
These unrealistic self-expectations are powerful drivers of chronic stress.
It's interesting you mentioned boundaries. Setting them isn't just about saying no, is it?
Not at all. It's actually about consciously saying yes to your own well-being, your own values, your own limits. And paradoxically, doing that often increases long-term productivity and fulfillment because you're not running on fumes.
That makes sense. And it's almost paradoxical, too, that when we finally do get a moment to rest, it often doesn't feel genuinely restorative. We might collapse on the couch.
Scrolling on our phones.
Great, but our minds are still racing, our bodies still feel tense. Why doesn't that kind of rest work?
That's because true rest encompasses more than just physical inactivity. It necessitates emotional, mental, and I'd argue even spiritual replenishment. Passive activities like endlessly scrolling through social media or watching television while our minds remain consumed by worries and obligations. They just don't provide the deep, genuine rest we require.
So what does?
Intentional, present rest, where we can truly disengage, allow the nervous system to downshift and recharge on all levels. That's what's essential.
It sounds like chronic stress can even warp our sense of self, almost hijacking our identity over time.
It really can. Prolonged stress can indeed lead to a significant alteration in how we perceive ourselves. Dreams and passions can recede into the background.
Things you used to love just don't seem appealing anymore.
Exactly. And our identity can become so intertwined with feelings of exhaustion and the roles we constantly perform, the busy employee, the stressed parent, the overwhelmed student, that we lose connection with our authentic selves. This distorted reality can make this state of chronic stress feel like the new normal, when in fact it's a survival mechanism masking our true identity, who we are underneath the stress.
Okay, so let's pivot slightly to some common questions people might have. What are some of those really early signs that someone might be on this path towards burnout, maybe without fully realizing it yet? Signs that often get dismissed.
That's a great question. Some of the early signs that are frequently dismissed as just being busy or, part of life include persistent and pervasive fatigue, the kind that isn't really alleviated by a night's sleep.
That deep weariness.
Yes. Also, a growing sense of emotional detachment from work or activities you once found enjoyable. Things just feel
Cynicism creeping in.
increased irritability or cynicism towards others or your work, definitely. Difficulty concentrating or experiencing frequent brain fog, losing your train of thought, struggling to focus, and just a general decline in motivation, finding it hard to get started on things.
Okay, those are helpful flags. And what's the fundamental distinction then between simply feeling stressed, which we all do sometimes, and actually experiencing burnout? Is there a clear line?
It's perhaps more of a spectrum, but the distinction is important. While stress often involves feeling overwhelmed by excessive demands and pressure, like you have too much on your plate.
Right, feeling frantic maybe.
Yes. Burnout, on the other hand, is characterized by a deeper sense of depletion, a lack of energy, a lack of motivation, and that feeling of emotional exhaustion and detachment we talked about. It's not just about doing too much. It's about feeling like you have nothing left to give.
That feeling of emptiness.
Precisely. The tank is empty.
We've touched on the physical consequences, but I want to ask directly. Can burnout have serious long-term impacts on our physical health if it's not addressed?
Yes, absolutely. If left unaddressed, chronic burnout can significantly elevate the risk of developing long-term physical health issues.
Such as?
We're talking about things like cardiovascular problems, issues with heart health, blood pressure, a weakened immune system making you more prone to illness, hormonal imbalances we mentioned, and it can even contribute to the development or exacerbation of autoimmune conditions. The long-term wear and tear is real.
That's sobering. And just to reiterate for clarity, you explained high-functioning burnout earlier, but what does that typically look like in someone's everyday life?
Okay, so high-functioning burnout is characterized by an individual maintaining a high level of external performance and productivity.
So they look successful from the outside.
Exactly. They often appear capable, in control, meeting deadlines, taking on projects. But internally, they're experiencing significant emotional and mental exhaustion and depletion. They are essentially operating on reserve energy, pushing through despite the internal cost.
They're running on fumes, basically.
That's a perfect way to put it.
Okay. For those listening who might be identifying with some of these experiences, but feel like taking significant time off, like a long vacation or sabbatical, just isn't feasible right now,
Yeah.
what can they do? Are there smaller, more immediate steps towards recovery?
Absolutely. That's a very common situation. And yes, even without extended time off, there are meaningful steps. Intentionally incorporating brief micro-rest breaks throughout the day can make a difference.
Like what? Stepping away for 5 minutes?
Even that, yes. Stepping away, doing some deep breathing, looking out a window. Also, starting to establish firmer emotional and physical boundaries, learning to gently say no to non-essential commitments.
That can be hard, but sounds crucial.
It is. Prioritizing sleep quality and consistency is huge. Sleep is foundational for recovery. And even just consciously practicing saying no can be incredibly powerful.
What about things related to the nervous system you mentioned?
Yes, engaging in specific techniques like deep diaphragmatic breathing, belly breathing, or even something simple like humming can help activate the vagus nerve.
The vagus nerve.
Yes, it plays a crucial role in regulating our nervous system, shifting us out of that fight or flight mode and into a more restful state. Gentle approaches to exercise, too, focusing on safety and body awareness, sometimes called trauma-informed movement, can help release stored stress without overwhelming the system.
So small, consistent actions add up.
They really do. It's about gently signaling safety to the body.
And finally, a question about professional help. Can therapy really be a valuable tool in addressing chronic stress and burnout?
Oh, absolutely. Therapy can be highly effective in addressing both the psychological and the physiological aspects.
How does it help?
Well, various therapeutic approaches,
Mm.
like cognitive behavioral therapy, CBT for instance, can help individuals identify and challenge the negative thought patterns that often fuel stress and burnout perfectionism,
Right.
negative self-talk.
Right.
Somatic therapies focus more on processing stored stress and emotional experiences held in the body. Other modalities can help develop healthier coping mechanisms, improve boundary setting, and build robust self-care strategies. It provides tools and support.
That makes a lot of sense. It sounds like recovery is really multifaceted.
It truly is. Healing isn't always linear, but it is possible.
So, wrapping up, burnout is this gradual process, often developing without us fully realizing it. But as we've discussed, it's not an irreversible state, is it?
No, definitely not. It's incredibly important to emphasize that.
It really serves as a vital signal, doesn't it? An important message, perhaps, to reconnect with ourselves, to maybe redefine our priorities, what truly matters.
But to reclaim our vital energy, yes.
And please, everyone listening, remember this. Your inherent worth is not determined by your level of productivity or the degree of your exhaustion.
That's so vital.
You were inherently valuable long before feeling constantly fatigued became your norm.
Absolutely.
We sincerely hope this deep dive has offered some clarity and perhaps a new way of looking at your own experiences, or maybe those of someone we care about.
We encourage you to reflect on what resonated most deeply and maybe consider exploring these ideas further in your own life.
Thank you so much for joining us on the deep dive.
It was a pleasure. Thank you.
We truly look forward to continuing these important conversations with you.